My name is Beth Laurie. I'm an affiliated spiritual director at Ignatius House and the founder of Sacred Spaces Ministry. As we reflect upon the story of Ruth and Naomi today, I'm actually acutely aware that this story we're looking at takes place in Bethlehem. Actually, it's just a couple of hours' drive from the war that's going on in the Gaza Strip in Israel right now. And this is a stark reminder of the division and the discord that's part of our world today, and the realities of the disagreement between people groups. Let us step back and learn from the voices of those marginalized in the book of Ruth for today's inspiration. The story begins with Naomi and her family leaving Bethlehem for Moab due to a famine. And while in Moab, Naomi's husband, Elimelech, dies. Her two sons then marry Moabite women, Orpah and Ruth. But tragically, both sons die as well, leaving Naomi, Orpah, and Ruth as widows. And that's a horrible thing in those days, as women cannot earn income and cannot own property. Naomi decides to return to her homeland, Bethlehem, and she encourages her two daughter-in-laws to stay in Moab with their own families. Orpah tearfully agrees and returns, but Ruth famously declares her unwavering loyalty to Naomi, saying, "Where you go, I'll go, and where you lodge, I'll lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God my God. Where you die, I will die, and where you are buried, I will be buried." So Ruth accompanies Naomi back to Bethlehem, where they arrive in poverty at the beginning of the barley harvest. To provide for them, Ruth goes to glean in the fields. Now that's a practice that's allowed for the poor, to gather leftover grain after the reapers. By divine providence, she ends up in the field of Boaz, a kind and honorable relative of Naomi's late husband. Boaz, having heard of Ruth's devotion to Naomi, shows her great favor and protection, allowing her to glean freely and ensuring her safety. Naomi, seeing Boaz's kindness, realizes he could be their kinsman redeemer. So that's a relative who, according to the Israelite law, had the right and the responsibility to marry a deceased kinsman widow, which would redeem their family property and preserve the family line. Naomi instructs Ruth to approach Boaz at the threshing floor and request his protection and redemption. Ruth humbly follows Naomi's instruction. Boaz, impressed by Ruth's virtuous character, agrees to fulfill the role of kinsman redeemer, even though there is another closer relative who has the first right. He publicly settles the matter at the city gate, and the closer relative declines the obligation. Boaz then marries Ruth. They have a son named Obed, who brings great joy and comfort to Naomi, ending all her bitterness. The book concludes by revealing that Obed becomes the father of Jesse, who is the father of King David, and thus in the line of Jesus. The book of Ruth highlights how loyalty and faithfulness, even to those marginalized, show God's heart for people. Now, three things stand out for me in this story. First, notice the breaking of boundaries. Ruth, an outsider, she shows this love that transcends all legalities and borders. It reflects God's own unwavering loyalty and grace. Notice the moving from law to love. The Mosaic covenant that was in place in that time, it was the law, and it lays down the foundation for divine human relationship on how a kinsman redeemer should help. But actually, we see it evolving into a love-based action in the book of Ruth. And third, I can't help but notice the overlook of the marginalized being seen. Boaz models what it means to live a life seeing another who is marginalized and in need of support. And he models that for us. Would you ponder with me, what would our lives look like if we broke boundaries to bring God's grace? If we moved from law to love? And if we both saw and gave voice to the marginalized in our world today? The book of Ruth gives us modern day implications for issues like social justice, inclusivity, and community responsibility. Let us be inspired to both look for and help as the Spirit leads.